everyone, thanks for joining me again. We're continuing on in our unit on measurement, and today we're going to do lesson 3, which is converting metric measurements of length. So yesterday we talked about different, measurements of length in the metric system. We learned that we have the base unit of the meter, and then we have these prefixes here that just go in front of meter to give us all the other measurements of length, or units of measurement. So we have millimeter, centimeter, decimeter, the meter itself, decameter, hectometer, and kilometer. These three are all smaller than the meter. And we saw that, in our previous lesson. And then these are all larger than the meter. So these are made up of multiple, meters put together. And then these are kind of, if you break the meter down into smaller parts. And we talked a little bit about converting yesterday. We said that, we saw that we had to multiply in order to go from a larger unit to a smaller unit. And that's because it takes more of the smaller units to make up the larger unit, right? It took 10 millimeters to make up 1 centimeter, and it took up 100 centimeters to make 1 meter. And we also, talked about how it took 1,000 meters to make up 1 kilometer. And so that's demonstrated down here. When we're going from the larger units down to the smaller units, we will multiply. It might just be like from centimeters to meters, might just have to multiply by 10. But when we're going from meter to centimeter, we have to do 2 multiples of 10, so we multiply by 100. And then really in 4th grade, we don't really convert from smaller to larger. But when you do, that's when you actually divide by 10, because you don't need as many pieces when the units are larger. So for example, if I had something measured in centimeters and I wanted to figure out how many meters it was, I would have to divide by 100 because the meter is just a larger unit. All right, so moving on, just a recap of what we learned the other day. Okay, these are some just basic numbers to keep in mind when we're doing conversions. The metric system is really nice. These numbers are really easy to remember. They're all multiples of 10. A lot different from the customary units of measurements that we use here in the United States. So remember, 1 centimeter is made up of 10 millimeters. 100 centimeters make up 1 meter. We saw these on the slides the other day. We took a really close look at that ruler to see the millimeters, and we saw that the 100 centimeters did make up that meter stick. And I explained to you guys that it took 1,000 meters to make 1 kilometer. It'd be kind of hard to really show you guys that in a picture. And so again, we saw this image yesterday too, and this just went to, show you guys that we can describe length using different units of measurement, and that they are equal to each other, that they are the same thing. Because remember, 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. So if I have 5 centimeters here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if I have 10 millimeters for each centimeter, so, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 50 millimeters altogether, then they are equal to each other. So I can say that 5 centimeters is equal to 50 millimeters. And there's a couple different ways you can get that. You could, just add over and over again the tens. You could skip count. Or an easier method is to multiply. And so remember, if I'm going from centimeters to millimeters, that magic number, okay, I'm going to multiply by is 10. Okay, because 10 millimeters, that's what the mm stands for. 10 millimeters make up 1 centimeter, or cm. So 5 times 10 is 50. And as you can see, that's how we get our millimeters. So again, just to review, when you convert from a larger unit to a smaller unit, you multiply. And when I say larger unit, I don't mean like a larger number, I just mean the unit itself, right? The centimeter is a larger unit than a millimeter. So that's what I mean when I say larger unit. A kilometer is a larger unit than a meter, so again, I would have to multiply. All right, so let's see if having a chart here helps us with converting. And we've done charts before. This is like an input-output chart when we did working with patterns and things like that. And so if you remember, the thing here is you have to figure out the rule. What's the rule that the numbers are following? And it's actually really easy in this case because we actually know the rule, right? So if centimeters is our input and millimeters is our output, we know the rule that when we convert from centimeters to millimeters, that we multiply by 10, okay? So just thinking about that, anything that's in this column here, you're going to multiply by 10, and your answer will go in this column here. So let's practice and do a couple of these. So remember, the rule is to multiply by 10. So if I had 2 centimeters, how many millimeters would that be? Right, you'd follow the rule of multiplying by 10, and you would get 20 millimeters. Okay, how about 5 centimeters? Right, multiply by 10, and you would get 50. Now this one I set up as kind of a little tricky. It's actually a chance for us to use our algebraic thinking because we know the answer is 70 and we know the rule is to multiply by 10. So then you kind of can think of it as like an algebraic thinking problem, right? So you would think what times 10 would equal 70. And if you guess 7, you are correct. So even if you just know your millimeters, okay, you can still figure out your centimeters. Now, the other thing you could do, yes, you could have divided by 10 also. You could just, kind of reverse the rule and you would get 7 as well. Or, like I said, you can turn it into an algebraic problem and get the answer that way as well. So 7 centimeters would equal 70 millimeters. Okay, and we have another chart here. So this time we're going to convert meters to centimeters. So again, our inputs are here, the meters, and our outputs are the centimeters. And again, we know that rule that it takes 100 centimeters to make 1 meter. So our rule is going to be to multiply by 100. Okay, so if I had 5 meters, how many centimeters would that be? Right, 5 times 100. Oops, better X there, would be 500. How about 10? If I had 10 meters, how many centimeters would that be? Right, so remember, when we are multiplying, okay, you can just think of it as 10 times 1, okay, which is 10. And then you would just have to carry over those extra zeros. So 1, 2, and that would be, make that a little bit better, that would be 1,000, right? So 10 times 100 equals 1,000. And so here's my little algebraic thinking problem for you guys, okay? I know my answer is 400. I know the rule is to multiply by 100. So what did I have to multiply by 100 to get here? 4, correct. So if you have 4 meters, that means you have 400 centimeters. All right, good job. So last but not least, okay, we've got kilometers that we're going to convert into meters, okay? So this is, the big one where multiplying by 1,000, right? It takes 1,000 meters to make 1 kilometer, okay? So really, when we're multiplying by 1,000, you're really just adding 3 zeros to the end of the numbers. Kind of an easy way to think about it. So 3 kilometers means I would have how many meters? 3,000. Good job. And how about 6 kilometers? 6,000. Easy enough, right? Okay, so here's the tricky part. What do I multiply by 1,000, okay, to get 10,000? Right, it's 10. So I don't know if maybe someone maybe even your parent has run a 10K. That stands for, when people say 10K race, they're talking about kilometers. So that's a pretty popular distance that people run. So if they ran a 10K or 10 kilometers, that means that they ran 10,000 meters. It's pretty cool. So now we know how to convert, centimeters to millimeters and meters to centimeters and kilometers to meters, right? We're converting all these larger units into smaller units. And so once we can do that, that means we can compare. Okay, so the last little bit is we're going to compare some different lengths of measurement. Okay, and we're going to use the conversion knowledge to help us out. So if I have 6 meters here and 450 centimeters over here, how could I compare these two? Because, you know, you might be tempted to just look at the numbers and say, oh, well, 450, that's a huge number. Okay, so it has to be more. But let's actually convert one of these, you know, so that they're the same unit of measurement. Because, you know, if you remember when we were dealing with fractions, I said if you have the same denominator, then it's really easy to compare, right? Well, same thing here. If we have the same unit of measurement, then they're really, really easy to compare. So we have meters and centimeters. If you remember, that magic number to convert meters to centimeters is I multiply by 100. Yes, there's 100 centimeters in each of these 6 meters. So if I do that, I'm going to substitute the 6 meters. Okay, 6 times 100 is 600. And I'm just going to abbreviate here with cm for centimeters. Okay, so now, what do you notice? It's actually not the 450 that is greater, it's the 6 meters or 600 centimeters. So again, when you convert one, it's a lot easier to see that. Okay, let's try 28 millimeters compared to 5 centimeters. So if you remember that magic number to convert centimeters to millimeters, it's times 10. Yes, there's 10 millimeters in each centimeter. So I'm going to cross that out. 5 times 10 is 50 millimeters, mm for short. And so now I've converted my 5 centimeters into millimeters, and it's a lot easier to compare millimeters to millimeters, right? So now we can see 28 is not as much as we thought it was. It is less than the 50 millimeters or 5 centimeters. And let's do one more here. So I've got 800 centimeters compared to 8 meters, okay? So again, like we remember our magic number up here, okay? When we're converting meters to centimeters, we multiply by 100. So I'm going to cross this out and I'm going to substitute my 8 meters for 800 centimeters. And what do you see here? 800 centimeters here and 800 centimeters here. So they're actually equal, okay? Biggest thing here is whenever you are doing your conversions, especially when you're comparing, is make sure that you convert the correct unit, okay? I can't convert millimeters to centimeters by multiplying because then I'm going from a smaller unit to a larger unit. So just always making sure that if you are multiplying, you're turning that larger unit of measurement into a smaller unit of measurement, okay? So for your practice today, you're going to go on to IXL and complete lesson N.13. All right, thanks everybody. I will see you again real soon. Bye.